Now, live on Fox Providence. This is Eyewitness News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
I had called over to him saying, can you find the hose line that was on this floor because I'm on fire right now. I could feel myself burning. I could see fire all around me.
Terrifying moments for a Providence firefighter when he gets trapped inside a burning home. Tonight, hear from him and the partner who saved his life.
Former teammates now going against each other in the big game. We hear from Tom Brady and Chris Long next.
Then a local teen battling cancer will be in Minneapolis for the big game. How this trip of a lifetime was made possible.
We'll dry for now, but tracking when our next chance for snow will be. A future cast coming up.
And new tonight, a local attorney is now sitting in the defendant's seat, accused of fraud.
We begin tonight with our big game coverage. We are just 4 days away from the Pats taking on the Eagles in the big game.
And the Pats looking for their 6th title, and the excitement is building. We have team coverage for you all week long. Sports director Yanni Caracas is standing by.
But first, let's go out to Ruthie Polinsky with more on the excitement at the Mall of America. Ruthie?
Hey, Mike and Shannon. Yeah, one of the cool things about Minneapolis as the Super Bowl host city is the Mall of America. And not only is it indoors where people can escape this cold for a little bit, but it's the largest mall in the country. And this week, it's growing.
The Mall of America has 520 stores, 50 restaurants, and an amusement park, including 24 roller coasters.
It's really cool. I was telling these guys, I've probably seen like 10 celebrities in my life, and I've seen more in these 2 hours than I have in my entire life, so.
Well, this week, the mall is host to Radio Row, featuring radio and television stations around the world, allowing fans to feel a lot closer to the action.
When you get to see them off air, it's cool to just see, hey, they're normal people.
Terrell Owens, Nate Burleson, Von Miller, Michelle Tafoya, Brian Billick, Travis Kelce, Greg Olson. Who else have we seen, guys? Greg Jennings, Matt Burke, Kurt Warner.
I met Kirk Cousins about 30 minutes ago, took a picture with him. He actually stopped me to say he liked my jersey, so that was cool. I think the coolest thing about having the Super Bowl here is the atmosphere that comes along with it. I mean, getting so many people from out of town, especially in January in Minneapolis, is rare. So an event that actually brings so many people here to see our city and see how cool Minneapolis actually is, not just like temperature-wise.
What would you do if you saw Nick Foles just going to Shake Shack?
I'd be nice to, I think he's a good guy. I'd be nice to him.
That's just your classic Vikings fan being a good sport. People here in Minneapolis are so kind. And just, guys, some of the Patriots that I've seen walking around the mall, James White, Dion Lewis, Stephen Gostkowski going to Shake Shack yesterday. So it's a really cool experience for everyone here in Minneapolis. For more on the Pats, let's go to the Mall of America where we find our Yanni Caracas.
Yeah, I'm standing here, Ruthie, because that's where the Patriots spoke to the media earlier this evening, and Landon Roberts just walked by getting some Chick-fil-A. Now, when the game takes place on Sunday, Patriots, Eagles, there'll be a lot of connections. You know, former Eagles include Patrick Chung and Dion Lewis, and of course, Patriots turned Eagles include LeGarrette Blount and Chris Long. And Tom Brady respects his teammate and Super Bowl cohort of last year, saying he hopes he doesn't see a lot of Long come Sunday.
Some great plays for the Eagles this year. They got a dominant pass rush on both edges, right up the middle. He's a big part of that. He's a great leader, practices his butt off, great enthusiasm. I have a ton of respect for him. I hope he doesn't hit me too hard if he gets a shot. Hopefully he respects his elders a little bit out there.
They have a lot of people that want to see them fail, for sure. When you're on top that long, people want to see you fail. And, you know, I had buddies that when I went up there, they were like, oh, man, I got to root for the Patriots now. But I think, you know, if you do pull for that team, you realize they do so much the right way, and it's a class organization.
So Chris Long certainly has a lot of respect for the Patriots organization. He hadn't made it to the playoffs his entire career, won a Super Bowl last year with the Pats, and on the doorstep of winning another with the Eagles. Coming up in the sports wrap, Tom Brady wants to know, why does everyone want to know when I'm retiring? Plus, Bill Belichick previewing that big 30 for 30 documentary about he and Bill Parcells. We'll have that for you during the sports wrap with Mark Dondero, Ruthie, and myself. Until then, live at the Mall of America, I'm Yanni Caracas, Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Yanni, and WPRI 12 is your Rhode Island Patriots station. Yanni and Ruthie will be reporting from Minneapolis all week. Be sure to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter for regular updates.
And tune in to our New England Nation specials over on WPRI 12 starting tomorrow night with a look back at the Patriots' winning season. On Friday, the experience in Minneapolis up to the big game. Our pregame show will air on Saturday night, and Sunday it's the postgame show. Be sure to tune in to WPRI right after TV coverage when the big game, wraps up.
Now, here's Chief Meteorologist Tony Petrarca with your first forecast.
Well, we have milder temperatures on the way for tomorrow afternoon, but before that happens, it's still chilly right now. We're actually tracking flurries and light snow showers off to our north and west. See on the upper left-hand side of your TV set out towards the Berkshires. Won't amount to much, but just that, light snow showers and flurries coming through overnight tonight, mainly to our north. This is actually in response to mild air trying to work in. Of course, it's not here yet, but you'll notice it tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures should be well into the 40s, but this activity is moving off to the east, so wouldn't be surprised again to see a snow shower or flurry during the pre-dawn hours. Partly to mostly cloudy skies in Providence right now. Temperatures mid and upper 20s, including 28 in Providence, Newport 32, and Smithfield coming in at 25 degrees. So your future cast for tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy, breezy, and not as chilly. Looking at temperatures in the lower to middle 30s to start the day, heading up to the 40s during the afternoon. Now we get some rain tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, but it's the pre-dawn hours of Friday, daybreak Friday, that we're watching somewhat closely with the potential for several hours worth of snow, and it may make the road slippery for the early Friday morning commute. We'll talk about that, the full forecast, coming up in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Tony. Earlier this month, an apartment in Providence burned to the ground, killing a woman who lived inside.
Lucy Feliciano's body was pulled from the rubble 2 days after the January 6th fire. While trying to put out the flames at a neighboring house, a firefighter got trapped. Crews put out the Mayday call while a fellow firefighter rushed to save him. And tonight we're hearing their amazing rescue story.
Eyewitness News reporter Caroline Goggin is in Providence with the interviews you'll see only on Eyewitness News.
It may be hard to imagine, but 3 homes once sat on this very lot. They burnt down and were torn down after a devastating fire just a few weeks ago. As flames tore through each of the 3 buildings that night, a Mayday call came from the 2nd floor of the home, which once sat right here. The sound of panic from beyond the flames and smoke.
I got down and I crawled into him, and that's when he told me that he's trapped and his radio's broken and I need to call Mayday.
In the early morning hours of January 6th, Providence's Bedoin Street filled with first responders. More than 100 firefighters battling the flames that extended to several homes on the street. Dan Rinaldi and Jay LaSalle had just finished a check inside one of those homes, so they decided to press on.
When you looked at this house, you just know, okay, I have a little bit of a fire in the loft. We do this every single day.
The pair refilled their air supply and went inside the next building. Not long after, something collapsed and everything went haywire.
My first thought was, okay, I'm trapped. Where's Danny?
That's when it dawned on me. I'm like, I have the whole top of this building on me right now. I am in huge trouble.
No less than 15 feet away, Jay made the call.
I called out, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We're trapped on the 2nd floor.
Special Hazards Charlie down the 2nd floor. Mayday has been received.
I think it was a realistic conclusion, to come to, thinking that, okay, there may be nobody coming to get you at this point.
It would be another 30 minutes before Danny was freed from the fire. Jay stayed by Danny's side for as long as he could, but eventually, Jay's air supply ran out.
Standing in that stairwell, I'm thinking, Danny, when I got on 12 years ago, was one of the senior guys. He was a mentor. He was someone to look up to. Now he's a good friend. He's someone I work with regularly. I'm thinking, I'm watching him die. I'm out of air. We got our bottles at the same time.
Little did Jay know, Danny had been conserving air. As he lay trapped, he changed his breathing pattern, anticipating the air would soon run out.
It was more or less thinking along the lines of, I can't believe I'm not even going to have a shot to get myself out of this.
My leg was pinned for so long.
Using the jaws of life, Danny was eventually freed, carried out on a stretcher on a bitter cold night, surrounded by the team that saved his life.
He's out because of the guys you work with and the ladies that you work with, that they did their job, beyond expectation to get him out. Gives you confidence going into those situations, knowing that you've got a great group of people you work with that you can rely on.
Hours after the fire here on Bedoin Street, officials did pull a body from the rubble. Dan telling us earlier today that even though his life being saved was a near miss for the Providence Fire Department, This fire is still a tragedy for the Providence community. Reporting in Providence, I'm Caroline Goggin, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Caroline. New tonight, a Providence attorney is accused in a check cashing scheme. 38-year-old Robert McNeilis is charged with a number of offenses after a fraud complaint from a local check cashing service.
Eyewitness News reporter Steph Machado spoke with McNeilis' lawyer, and who's also his twin brother. She joins us now live in studio with more. Steph?
The attorney, Robert McNeilis, was arrested by the state police today while working at a courthouse in Providence. Hours later, he was arraigned at that very courthouse, charged with 11 crimes in this check cashing scheme. Attorney Robert McNeilis accused of bank fraud and forgery in an alleged check cashing scheme that left this Pawtucket business out thousands of dollars. Rhode Island State Police say the business, Extreme Computers, reported suspected fraud after a man named Marcus Crook cashed checks from McNeilis' bank account, but one of them bounced. State police going to McNeilis' Johnston law practice to ask him about it. Police writing in a press release, Attorney McNeilis reported to detectives that each of the checks had been stolen and forged and that he wished to pursue prosecution. Marcus Crook was arrested in December, but state police said detectives later determined that Attorney McNeilis had allegedly directed Mr. Crook to cash the checks on his behalf. McNeilis was arrested Wednesday inside the Garrahy Courthouse in downtown Providence, where he was working. Later arraigned in that same building on 11 charges and released. We went to his house in Providence to get his side of the story and met his twin brother, Ryan McNeilis, who is representing him in the case.
My brother actually is a victim, not a culprit in this matter.
McNeilis says Crook was a disgruntled client and stole his brother's checkbook.
He had access to the building and raided my brother's office while my brother was away. And we are supremely confident that in a matter of a very short time, my brother will be exonerated fully of all charges.
And the state police say they have corroborated key parts of Mr. Crook's story, who also has pending charges against him in this fraud case. Robert McNeilis is due back in court in May. In the meantime, he is being permitted to leave the country, heading on his honeymoon in Europe tomorrow. I'm Steph Machado, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Steph. There's more coverage you can count on next on Eyewitness News at 10. An emotional day in court as the man accused of brutally killing a woman and dumping her body on a job site faces the victim's family.
A recent study found Rhode Island is the 10th most regulated state in the country. State lawmakers have been trying to change that for years. So what's being done? I'll have the results coming up.
A restaurant employee is arrested after a customer finds a container of cocaine in their food order.
And we're learning more about a fire that destroyed a Quincy police cruiser and how much damage it caused.
Now, live on Fox Providence. This is Eyewitness News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
We are tracking developments on the Providence Place Mall shooting, the latest on the victim, the search for suspects, and the chaos inside the mall following the shooting.
Belgium blast, an explosion rocks a neighborhood and takes down a building.
We're tracking accumulating snow for late tomorrow night into the Wednesday morning commute. I'll let you know how much will fall.
And we'll have an update on the case of a missing wheelchair from Gillette Stadium. Details straight ahead.
But first tonight, we're working developing news on a shooting at the Providence Place Mall that we first told you about on Eyewitness News Live at 5. Here's the latest. A 19-year-old who was shot inside the parking garage is being treated at Rhode Island Hospital.
No arrests have been made, but one person was taken in for questioning. The search continues for several suspects.
The mall was closed for the rest of the night and did not reopen, but will open tomorrow as usual. And we have team coverage of the mall shooting. Eyewitness News reporter Sheena Loshudo standing by with more on the chaos and confusion of the whole incident.
Well, first, let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Caroline Goggin with the latest on the investigation. Caroline?
Well, Mike and Shannon, the search continues tonight for the suspects involved in this case. Police telling us at least a dozen men could have been involved in this afternoon's shooting here at the Providence Place Mall. Tonight, there is only one shooter that they are looking for, and they tell us the man who was shot, he's in stable condition. Some were inside dressing rooms.
We were just in J. Crew and a sales associate came up to us and said we need to evacuate immediately.
Others ushered out of the movie theater.
We were able to get away without any instances.
As shoppers were evacuated from Providence Place Monday afternoon, a large police presence filled the mall, responding to a shooting outside Nordstrom on the second floor of the parking garage.
We saw all of the tons of cop cars. We heard the sirens. They were grabbing rifles out of their trunks and shotguns and It was insane.
Providence police got the call around 4:40, arriving on scene to find a young man shot with non-life-threatening wounds to his leg.
The initial investigation reveals there is a fight amongst two groups of kids, young men, in the mall on the second floor outside the Foot Locker.
Providence Police Chief Colonel Hugh Clements says the fight extended from Foot Locker into Nordstrom and then out to the parking garage.
The fight escalates where someone pulls out a firearm and that young man is shot.
Colonel Clements says the victim came back into Providence Place, as did some of the suspects, who then quickly fled the area. The search continues for them tonight. Chief Clements telling us he isn't ruling out gang activity in this case just yet.
Kind of went textbook, in all honesty. And the assailant's at large, but there's no doubt in my mind within a short amount of time we'll identify him and apprehend him.
So again, no arrests have been made in this case tonight. Police would not give us any particulars on the suspects in the case because they believe they have a pretty good handle on this investigation as of yet. Colonel Clements telling us he hopes to have another update come morning. Reporting live in Providence, I'm Caroline Goggin, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Caroline. And while all of this was going down, there was a lot of confusion inside the mall, even for the people who work there. Eyewitness News reporter Sheena Loshudo spoke with an employee who tells us what it was like for her. Sheena joins us now from outside the mall. Sheena.
Shannon, I spoke with several employees who told me that customers were the first to tell them there was a shooting inside the mall. And for moments they thought there's no way that could be true until they heard the alarms and saw the police. It was what she saw with her own eyes that made one mall employee realize something wasn't right.
And all we seen was a bunch of cop cars pull up out of nowhere, and cops were running inside with their guns already out.
Working on the first floor, she witnessed the panic, but she says she had no idea what was going on or why police were in the mall.
Like 2 minutes later, all you hear is the cops yelling to everyone, "Everyone get out, everyone leave now."
The employees hid behind the counter as they saw the chaos. She says it wasn't until a coworker's wife called that the group received any information.
And that's when we found out that there was a shooting in the parking garage. We still had no idea.
Other employees reached out to us frustrated about the communication.
There's always going to be that chaos in the initial moments preceding the shooting.
So I asked the chief what kind of protocol is in place in these types of situations. He says Providence police train with mall security to always be prepared.
They practice to shelter in place and secure themselves and wait for the professionals to come, the Providence police, to secure the building, and they did exactly that.
And we received conflicting reports from customers about whether or not people had to pay while they were leaving the parking garage. However, we did see police checking the cars as they were leaving, so that could have added to the delay as well. Reporting live in Providence, I'm Sheena Loshudo, Eyewitness News.
And stay with Eyewitness News for the latest on tonight's mall shooting on air and online. Our coverage continues over at 11 on WPRI 12.
We have a live pinpoint Doppler 12 weather alert. Weather is calm right now, but it's cold outside and could be changing too in the next day or so with a chance of snow. Winter storm watch is going into effect for part of our area. Joining Chief Meteorologist Tony Petracca. You know, the other day I'm seeing, all right, there's no more snow in the yard. Is it a little too early to get excited that we're not going to see any more?
Well, if there's any good news, this is not a blockbuster or a nor'easter. I know you can handle it.
All right, I'm going to try my best.
And this is essentially Wednesday for the Wednesday morning commute. Tomorrow morning's commute is fine. In the meantime, we'll head outside. It's, as Mike had mentioned, it's cold. Not much out there now. The exception, and this is a separate weather system with a damp wind coming in off the ocean. We've had snow showers and freezing drizzle out towards New Bedford, Plymouth, and Cape Cod. So right in here, some slippery travel, not a lot of snow, just a little glazing of some of the roads. This is not our weather system or our storm headed for our way for Wednesday. In the meantime, temperature in the upper teens to lower 20s. The timetable on this for later Tuesday night into Wednesday. In fact, late at night, after midnight tomorrow night into the pre-dawn hours, the heaviest of the snow from roughly 4 o'clock in the morning Wednesday till about 1 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. A little rain mixing in for a time south of Providence. Whole thing is winding down by 5 o'clock in the evening. So essentially quiet across the northeast right now. Storm in the Great Lakes. This is going to move into northern New England and weaken. What will happen is a secondary storm will form off the mid-Atlantic coastline and bypass the area late tomorrow night. Wednesday morning. Not a nor'easter, not a blockbuster, but we think it's enough to make the morning commute kind of a real headache on Wednesday. Tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy, a little sun and dry. Temperature starting off at 22. We'll talk about accumulations and we'll walk you through it hour by hour. Full forecast in about 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Tony. And to track the snow from your smartphone, download the Pinpoint Weather app for alerts and updates right at your fingertips 24/7.
New tonight, an explosion tears through 3 adjacent homes in Belgium. Police in the city of Antwerp say this blast is not part of a terror attack. 20 people were hurt. Most of the injuries, though, are minor. At least one building collapsed. Rescue crews have been searching through the debris for any possible survivors.
Now on Fox Providence. This is Eyewitness News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
A driver intentionally runs over and kills several people in Manhattan. Tonight we're learning more about who the suspect is.
In the wake of the October storm, a local town asked families to save their trick-or-treating for another night.
And a frost advisory for very late tonight, early tomorrow morning. I'll let you know how low temperatures will go.
First tonight, we are tracking the latest developments on a truck attack in New York City that investigators are calling a deliberate act of terror.
The death toll now stands at 8. It happened just after 3 this afternoon. The driver of a rented truck plowed into people on a bike path near the World Trade Center.
The suspect has been identified as 29-year-old Saifullah Saipov of Uzbekistan. Authorities say he came into the United States in 2010.
He rented the van about an hour before the attack. Saipov was shot by police and was taken to the hospital. He is expected to survive surgery. A motive is under investigation.
And tonight, President Donald Trump is condemning the attack, calling it cowardly. He also praised first responders for their quick response. The incident happened shortly after 3 o'clock this afternoon in Lower Manhattan, in the shadow of the World Trade Center.
Be advised, we have multiple people on the ground from Chambers all the way up to Houston.
According to witnesses and police, a white pickup truck jumped a curb and drove onto the crowded bike path that runs alongside the West Side Highway.
Based on the information we have at this moment, this was an act of terror, and a particularly cowardly act of terror.
The vehicle continued south for several blocks, striking more than a dozen people. When the truck came to a stop, witnesses say the driver got out holding what appeared to be 2 handguns. He was confronted by police who shot him and took him into custody.
A uniformed police officer assigned to the 1st Precinct confronted the subject and shot him in the abdomen. The subject was wounded and transported to a local hospital. A paintball gun and a pellet gun were recovered at the scene.
Police believe the suspect acted alone, and they say there's no evidence this attack was part of a larger plot. Now, despite the attack, there was a Halloween parade that was still held tonight, but they had extra security on hand.
And following today's incident, we reached out to our Eyewitness News analyst, who used to be the director of Homeland Security for Rhode Island. He tells us why it's hard to protect against attacks like this.
Eyewitness News reporter Kim Kalunian joins us now from the control room with more in-depth coverage.
Well, Mike and Shannon, Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio says these types of attacks are likely on the rise, but he also says vigilance and awareness can be strong protectors against them.
Today, there was a loss of innocent life in Lower Manhattan.
Officials now calling Tuesday's terror attack the deadliest in New York City since 9/11. We spoke with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio about the attack on a busy bike path. He says terrorists are now looking for ways to circumvent known security measures.
These are things that it's almost impossible to protect anyone against. But at the same time, I think we need to be aware that that's what we'll be seeing in the future.
Centracchio believes ISIS will soon lay claim to this attack, even if they didn't actually orchestrate it.
But they'll claim that this individual was inspired by them, and therefore they'll claim ownership of it.
And while Centracchio says we're winning the battle against ISIS on their turf, they're now exporting this type of violence.
Terrorism at this level in this country is 100% possible. The probability, as I said earlier, is dependent upon how much effort you put into protecting ourselves, as well as having plans to protect large venues. And that's as much as we can do right now. But I think you'll unfortunately start to see more of this because it's more effective here than it is fighting a battle over in Syria.
And again, the suspect in this attack is reported to be in critical condition at this time. Centracchio says that's valuable because he could be questioned down the line, so we can possibly learn more about the motives behind this heinous attack. Live in the control room, I'm Kim Kalunian, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Kim, and please stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of the New York City truck attack.
We'll bring you the latest developments on air and online at WPRI.com.